So our essential question changed a little. Last week and the week before is what kind of cells are we made of? What kind of cells are out there? Today, all living things are made of cells. We know that. We talked about the cell theory. We talked about the different types of cells that are out there. But what are cells made of? So the cell membrane is our focus today. And the cell membrane is like our skin. It is a barrier that separates a cell's inside from the outside, just like our skin does for us. Our skin keeps all of our blood and our bones and our muscles and everything else on the inside where it belongs. And then it keeps other stuff out. Bacteria, viruses, fungus. Do those things sometimes get in? Yes, sometimes. But for the most part, our skin is very, very good at keeping bad stuff out. Good morning, Benjamin. Good morning, Giovanni.
Morning.
All right. So to review from last week and the week before, all cells have cell membranes, and they are also called plasma membranes. You will see them the same way. So prokaryotic cells, eukaryotic cells, plant cells, animal cells, bacteria, fungus, all cells have cell membranes. Now, some cells, like plant cells and fungal cells and bacterial cells, also have a cell wall on the outside of their cell membrane, but all cells have that membrane. They have at least one barrier keeping stuff out, keeping the bad stuff out, keeping the good stuff in. Functions. It's a barrier that separates the inside from the outside. Like I said, keeps organelles, cytoplasm, all the good stuff in, keeps other stuff out. And it is not just a solid piece of tissue. That is actually a picture of it up close. And you can see there's lots of different structures, lots of different things that make up the cell membrane. We're going to talk about each of those structures because they each have a different function, just like our organelles. So the structure is called a phospholipid bilayer, which is a mouthful. But if you break it down, all it does is tell you what it looks like and what it's composed of, what it's made of. So phospho means part of it is made of phosphate. Last chapter, we talked about all of the elements that make us up. Phosphate is phosphorus and oxygen put together. Lipid, part of it is made of lipids. We also talked about our four major macromolecules: carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, nucleic acids. So lipids is a very important part of all of our cell membranes. Bi is a prefix that means two. You're riding a bicycle, it has two wheels. And then layers, like a cake. So our cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer. It's two layers made partly of phosphate and partly of lipids. Good morning, Kyle. Structure of a phospholipid. And yes, I would like you to draw a picture that looks similar to this. That's why it says draw and label on the slide. So they're very simple, heads and tails, just like a coin. You can probably tell which part is the head and which part are the tails, or you should be able to. So the head is the portion, that red ball at the top, that is made of phosphate. And an important property of the head is that it is hydrophilic. Hydro means water and philic means attracted to. So that part of the membrane likes water. And then we also talked about water being a polar molecule. It has that positive and negative charge. And polar molecules attract other polar molecules. So hydrophilic and polar go together. The other side, the tails, the little legs, that is the part that is made of lipids. And it is the opposite. It is actually hydrophobic. It does not like water. A phobia is something you are afraid of. It is afraid of water, which makes for an interesting molecule. So that part is nonpolar. It does not mix with water well. The fluid mosaic model is the picture that scientists use to study this part of our cell, to study the cell membrane. Fluid means it's flexible. The layers kind of move against each other. They're not just stuck together. And then mosaic is like a work of art. Somebody made this picture and thought it looked like a work of art once upon a time, so they call it the fluid mosaic model. There's different molecules stuck in there. They make kind of a pattern. You can see there's pretty much almost all of our 4 major macromolecules. There's carbohydrates, there's proteins, there's lipids, there's cholesterol is a lipid, and the little tails that are arranged against each other, those are made of lipids. So our cell membrane is a very complex structure all by itself. So there's other molecules stuck in the membrane, like I just said. Proteins. Proteins are for transport. They open and close to let molecules move in and out of the cell. We'll go over that in a little more depth next week when we talk about actual transport in and out of cells. Carbohydrates. These are ID tags to tell different cells apart. Your body knows where your cells are supposed to be. Your brain cells have a different ID tag than your heart cells or than your stomach cells. And when your cells start to migrate to other places, that's a problem. That's when your body sends you signals and says, hey, this isn't supposed to be here. Get it out of here. Some women go through what's called endometriosis, and it's a disorder where the cells of their uterus migrate to other places in the body and make them sick. Because your body knows those ID tags where everything's supposed to be. And then cholesterol. It's kind of like yarn. It's the little tiny things in there. The little tiny dots. And it's kind of woven in and out to keep it together. So it's fluid and it moves against each other, but it doesn't totally come apart. So that's what those cholesterol chains are for. Hi, Aaliyah. Good morning. Selective permeability is a very important characteristic of our cell membrane. That's another name for semi-permeable. Good morning, Braylon. Semi means part or half, and then permeable refers to what can or cannot pass through the membrane. The cell membrane is said to be semi-permeable because it only lets certain molecules into or out of the cell. And it usually has to do with size. In that picture, you can see the little blue molecules can migrate straight through from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell. But these orange ones, they're a little too big. They get blocked. And that's where our proteins come in, our transport proteins come in. Like I said, we'll focus on that next week. And that is it for the notes for today. They are fairly short. So I am going to go over the rest of our assignments for the week. So go back to writing the summary at the end. Directions are on Canvas, so no more Venn diagrams. We're going back to the summary. The video will be posted this afternoon if you need to fill in the blanks. And then you have your last assignment. So I'm going to switch to this tab. So here's your summary directions if you forgot how to write the summary. The other assignment this week is called Coronavirus and the Cell Membrane. So it was about 5 years ago that the coronavirus was very serious, and it is still very serious. But this coronavirus acts with our cell membrane in a certain way that is important to learn about. So this is what's called a web quest, or it's kind of a research assignment. But it looks like this. It's a document. You have a website. You have to read this website. That is where the answers come from. I know, you have to read. What a concept. So there's your link to the website. First thing I have you do is research the background. Once upon a time, we talked about the Pacific Northwest tree octopus. We always want to check our sources. Where are we getting our research from? Then you move on, and the website is chunked into sections. So introduction, read the introduction. That's where that answer comes from. What exactly is a virus anyway? That's the title of one of the sections. All those answers are going to come from that section. So chunk it. Do the background first, take a break. Read the introduction, take a break. You don't have to do it all at once. And then make sure in the end you go back to Canvas, because you actually have to click submit to turn it in. If you don't click submit, then I don't know that you're done with it. When you click submit, Canvas sends me a notification saying, hey, the student is done with this assignment. Now you can grade it. But I don't get that notification if you don't go back and click submit. All right.